You want to know how your horses are doing? I'm going to tell you right now, and it won't be a one-word answer. We have an in-depth look at everybody. Let's start with Ailsun. So Ailsun last year was a filly that showed a lot of pop, trotted in 57 her first start, but struggled with her gait. A couple of times she got out of gear with the different surfaces between Northfield and Scioto. She struggled. We changed her shoes. She wasn't awesome the day she won the Buckeye in 59. She just overpowered them, and then a horse in front of me, I believe, made a break. The race was given to her. She took advantage of it, and she won the race. Nevertheless, she was okay towards the end of the year, and then on Delaware Jug Day, she was terrible. So not a big deal there, but Ailsun wintered well, came back good. Jason told me 2-3 weeks ago, of all the horses, of all the expectations he had coming back, we had concerns about spend that money. How's she going to come back? We were very on eggshells with Globetrotting. Is this still going to be Globetrotting? Everybody appeared to be coming back good, but Ailsun was awesome. Jason said by far the most improved horse that he had in his barn was Ailsun. He had high expectations for her. She qualified great. She trained great last week. She trained good yesterday. She'll have a week of easy work, but eager to race Ailsun this year. Arctic Force trained down good, and this is a horse we sent to Florida. We spent good money on this horse. I think our bill every month was $2,700 American with the ridiculous exchange rate now. That was like $4,000, I think, Canadian, almost 27. Yeah, $4,000 almost a month to train him. But he was at a top-rate facility. Doug Brown did a fantastic job training him back and taking care of him. Harry said the horse looks like $1 million, and I guess it's one of those sayings: you get what you pay for. And it's not that we don't do a good job. I take great pride in what we do, but there's some things that maybe Florida definitely helped this horse. Stress level was down, softer track, no corks. He looks like $1 million. So I think Arctic Force was afforded the opportunity to be the very best horse he's going to be in 2020 as soon as we get a chance to show it. Beach Boutique was racing okay this year. I was hoping she'd come back good. She come back better. And then her last start, you saw she get jammed up in behind. She had lots of pop on the inside finishing up. This time off will only help Beach Boutique. It seems like she's growing every day. She's bigger and wider. She looks like $1 million. This filly could be a nice horse. I think at very worst, she's a Mohawk condition horse, and there's nothing wrong with that. Beach Boutique has very little to prove. Some expectations, but at the same time, a ton of talent. And I believe this filly could potentially end up in Pennsylvania, but even if she doesn't, as I just said, she'll be a good Mohawk condition filly. And you'll hear that a lot here. I have no interest in just sending the horses away to say they're away. If they're not going to be effective, if they're not going to be stake horses, there's no point sending horses even to Pennsylvania to race in the Stallion Series. It goes for $20,000. We have to pay somebody to train those horses and ship them all over the world. We can stay here and race for 15, 16, 17, 18,000 right here at Mohawk, 10 minutes from our farm. So before you get too enthusiastic about sending horses away to their prospective jurisdiction, if they aren't going to be effective stake horses, they aren't leaving Canada. Beach Bum BB, there's a filly that probably isn't a stake horse, but now this is a different type of situation. She's an Indiana bred and Indiana eligible. There's lots of more conditions for Indiana eligible fillies in Indiana. So I will contradict myself what I just said a minute ago. In this case, Beach Bum BB might be better off in Indiana, where she can race against her own, right? Her own breed, in her own jurisdiction, with the same level of competition that she should be afforded for an Indiana filly. So it's not to say that she's not the same as Beach Boutique. They're very similar right now, but I think Beach Boutique's a some beach somewhere, decently bred filly, got a big engine, big long hobble now, and is learning to be a nice horse. Beach Bum BB is a bring on the beach filly, bred in Indiana, decent family, but still has a lot to offer. Does she have as much as the other horses? I don't know. I guess worst case scenario, we can't have them all in the same class. Best case scenario for her, there's a number of good classes for her in Indiana. She's staked in Indiana. There's only one racetrack, so you can either stable there or close to there. And there's a number of other classes for her. So in this particular case, I believe you'll see Beach Bum BB head to Indiana when they start racing. Bottle of Red, here's a perfect example. Now, she got over half good yesterday, but I don't want to be racing her on some of those tighter tracks. No Monticello, no Batavia, no Buffalo for her. We still have Yonkers is tight, but We'll see. We'll play that by ear, but we still do have Tioga, Vernon, Saratoga's a good little half-mile track. I'm missing a bigger track somewhere. Vernon, Tioga. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Bottle of Red, we're going to manage her properly this year. A lot to offer. Fast fillies, already paced 54, took a mark of 56. Can leave, can come from off the pace. She's just about as versatile as you want a horse to be. She's well-bred, durable, and a nice filly all around. Lots to offer here with Bottle of Red. Brush Cut, another horse. Want to keep him off the halves. He can get into his knees a little bit, but a big, strong colt. My God, did he ever look good training free-legged the other day? I meant to ask Kevin how comfortable he feels. Be great to have him free-legged. He definitely hit his knee less. I just don't know if he can go free-legged. I don't know, but definitely looked good the other day. Horse, obviously, we know his Achilles heel. He ties up a little bit sometimes, so we got to keep an eye on that. That's easier said than done, but we will do our best. Cabernet, I don't know if she'll head to Pennsylvania. Let's just worry about getting her sound, getting her back. She was training down great and looked really, really good. Regardless of what she is, she's going to be an effective horse for us wherever we decide to race her, as long as we race her where she can do well. Canadian Titan is training down. She was bad for about 3 weeks. I thought she was much better yesterday. I think you'll see improvements from her over the coming weeks. I thought she was much, much better. Very happy with where Canadian Titan is right now, given the entire situation we're in here in the world. I believe Canadian Titan will be more than back to 100% when they say let's go. Capistrano gets better every week. Looked great again this week. She'll have an easy week of work this week. I don't think there's any reason to push again with her. Compass Rose DC, same thing. This filly was one of our best fillies last year. Globetrotting, Compass Rose DC, and Spend That Money won both of their first 2 Sire Stakes, I believe, and both look fantastic. Compass Rose got a little sick. Then her feet got sore. She qualified unbelievably well in Northfield. Then I'm sure I went over this last year. So she made a break on James. We qualified her in the mud, and it was muddy as hell in Northfield one morning. And we had flip-flops on her. I didn't know how she qualified. I think she qualified like 57 or 58 and looked unbelievable. I think it was 58. And then a week later, 9 days later, we were going to Delaware. Delaware's track was deep, and we had flip-flops on her. And you could tell if you go back and watch a Delaware race, you could see it multiple times in the mile when James asks her. She shudders a little bit, and that's her slipping. I think it was my fault. Jason and I talked about it, but it was ultimately we decided to leave the flip-flops on her as she qualified so good, and then she got out of gear. She still trotted in 57, but finished 4th, I think, in Delaware, and looked really, really good. You could tell mechanically she was right. This year she's come back so good, and her last few training trips have been nothing short of very, very good. She'll get an easy week of work this week. Also, Don't Believe Me, Just Watch come out of the gate screaming last year. 53 first over. I think he won twice in 53 if I'm not mistaken. But you could tell in Clinton, I wasn't here in Clinton, but I saw the replay. He was on the right line and out of gear really hard. I think that's when that bone spur started to bother him a little bit. We worked on it. We kept it somewhat subdued. And I know when I drove him the one time at Mohawk, he was on the right line real hard. And I think it really played games with him mentally. Towards the end of the year, I don't know if he was tired as much as he was just sore. He wasn't showing it as much because I don't think you saw it in every stride, but I think it really chewed away at him mentally. And now that we have it off, I mean, the sky's the limit. I don't know if this is like a 49 or 50 pacer, but I think he's definitely a nice grassroots colt that can do some damage in a number of condition races all around Ontario. So I'm very happy we got to the bottom of it. I'm very happy that we had an opportunity to fix it, and I'm very happy that we'll have the horse ready to go shortly after we are. I don't think he'll be ready in 6 weeks. That would be foolishness, but he'll be ready to go some point in early summer 2020. Emerald Miss was absolutely fantastic. I think she went undefeated at Flamborough, 2 for 2, and then the last day she was Indigo, she was scratched, I believe. She has been awesome since we brought her back. I didn't know how she'd get around a half. I was hopeful. First day that Travis blasted her out of there, I'm like, oh my, I don't know if that's going to work. And she just jogged, and then the other day moved her back to the front and won with a bow in her neck. Not the other day, the last time she raced. She won with a bow in her neck. Yesterday, I think she hadn't trained real hard in 2 weeks. Danny put her on the front, and she just swarmed a bit in the end of it, but finished up rather well. This affiliate's probably going to have a nice summer in Ohio. Enduring Strength, I know he's made a couple of breaks. This is a colt, and if you go back and look at all his videos, struggled at Tomiko Training Center his whole life. Once we got him to Mohawk and other places, he did well. And as far as you'd think that it's the hobbles, he needs the hobbles. His hobbles literally broke at the 7/8 pole in Georgia the night he took his lifetime mark, 158. You can see them in the video, broke in. I reached down with my foot and picked up the strap, but there was nothing on his legs finishing up. This is a colt that's probably just going through some growing pains. Made a couple little breaks. I know it eats away at Mario, but he shouldn't worry too much about it. This horse has already been there, done that, and he'll get back there again. I'm not concerned about him. Excellent Nation trained yesterday. This horse said he always looks rickety going. Watch when they're going slow in the mile yesterday. He looks terrible, but he's always like that going slow. You put him in gear and he just wrinkles come out of him, and he's all business. I think he knew yesterday it was just playtime, and he's not going to take it very seriously until he sees a starting gate. Smart colt, lots to offer, real handy. His last start, I believe he was a little sick. I think that was the only time he's actually raced flat, but he bounced back really, really well. The first start he was like 5th or 6th maybe, and was kind of in the hunt, but not really there. And then we really put him in gear the 2 weeks after that, and he was awesome. I think Excellent Nation is much like Emerald Mist, going to have a real good year in Ohio. Forged in Fire. Listen, we're lucky to have this horse at all. One of our nicest colts training down, and then he had that horribly rare issue where he actually ended up with his throat paralyzed on one side from a pimple that caused an infection, and it was just a mess. And I just assumed that he was done at that point. I didn't know if he'd ever make it back or what he'd think, what he would look like when he did. But he showed some real tenacity in a couple of his miles at Mohawk. Gone to Pennsylvania, was second. His first start looked pretty good, and then his second start looked rather flat. Tim said he scoped sick, was a little bit sick. I would suspect any type of sickness or inflammation in his throat is going to only be compounded by the tie-back surgery that he had. So I guess just throw it out the window. Now we're waiting to get back racing. The time off will definitely help him. Frontier Cruise is ready to go. Kevin said he was in 2-4, then he trained him in 2-2, and then last week he was strong again. This horse, he's the type of horse where you still need to work him, but not too hard, and I think Kevin probably will work him similar as he did 2 weeks ago next week. Giddy Up Max was good yesterday. Kind of ruined our second set. This is a horse that was well bred out of a sister to All Bets Off. David Shea and his father bought this horse. We trained him down. He was always a little sulky, a little sour. He took a mark, I think, 58, 57, something like that. Maybe 56. And looked good doing it. But when push come to shove, he just wasn't mentally prepared to be a 2-year-old. You could tell, he just didn't show the same care that other horses did. Now, I was a little surprised. He qualified some good. Moved him a couple of times, come out down the lane, drifted out a little hair, and then collared them and drove away from them. Very Giddy Up Max like was that type of mile, and I was really, really impressed with the way Giddy Up Max handled himself in that situation. Globe Trotting, just finishing up on Giddy Up Max, was in with 2-year-old yesterday just so he would relax, just so he would have an easy day. Last thing I said to Harry just before we turned, last thing I want to do is push him and get him back going towards being sour. He enjoys his work right now. Definitely enjoyed it yesterday, but did a little too much of it. He's never been an overachiever, but yesterday did more work than we wanted to see, so that's great. Globetrotting was obviously the queen of the castle, so to speak, last year. This affiliate put away 150-some thousand, took a mark of 56, and got beat on the half in her last start. Had some issues with gate work, but left some money on the table. But just a phenomenal filly, and I think she's going to come back good again this year. We haven't really hit the gas pedal with her yet. We're really just putting some track work in. We'll hit the gas in the next couple of weeks. Hometown Boys come back. Or no, I jumped over. Harness AM. This is a filly last year. Let's be honest. Harness AM was a very good filly in with exceptional fillies last year. She caught an extremely difficult and tough division of the Pennsylvania Sires. Held her own. I think Yannick interfered with me as for her first start back, or she would have been a winner, I believe. And then after that, she struggled a bit, and then ended up, I believe, bleeding and being put on Lasix, if I'm not mistaken, towards the end of the year last year. We talked about the issues with allergies and how it can cause sickness and ultimately cause some breathing issues that may lead to the Lasix program and EIPH, exercise-induced pulmonary hemorrhaging. And I think this year we're going to change things up after we've seen, I think we have a pretty good model to look at and a pretty big selection of horses to review. And I think any of the horses that have allergies that look like sickness when they're scoped, that make the horses feel weak, that really put them through the ringer, those come up mid part of July through most of the summer, but definitely mid part of August. Any of the horses this year that exhibit those signs, we're going to stop with. We can back them off and just jog them, maybe. Give them 2 weeks in the field, jog them back, but they will not be racing in that time frame. And this filly, Harness Am, would have fallen into that schedule last year had we been doing it. Her worst races were right in that schedule, right? You guys know that owned her. I'd call you after the race. John said he scoped her. She had some mucus. You know, they're going to deal with it. And then it got to a point where John said there's some blood. We might have to put her on Lasix. 1 + 1 = 2. So that's Harness AM. Hometown Boys took his mark at Flamborough this year. Rather lazy horse last year. I think we missed our window. We didn't miss our window. We didn't geld him when we should have, and it came back to bite us in the butt, I believe. We finally gelded him heading into his 3-year-old season. He's a big boy, and he's really starting to put it all together. I know he only won in 2-4, but the way he did it was impressive. Controlled the race, fought off the horse challenging him, and won the race. That's not that fighting a horse off, that doing his work well, was not in his vocabulary. He's a 2-year-old, and it is now. This horse could be any kind of horse when he reaches his potential physically and mentally, and he's not there yet. I'll Play It Alone is in Pennsylvania with Tim. This is a horse that you could tell had blinding speed, right? We could talk for hours about I'll Play It Alone. Had blinding speed as a 2-year-old, kind of uncontrollable. We qualified him quick. His first start he near killed Sylvain. Jumped over, thought there was a pylon there. I mean, you remember the race, don't you? I have the video if you want to see it. Jumped over the pylon, left a bit of a skid mark in Sylvain's underwear, I think, when he did it. And then we worked on showing him the pylons. He's not stupid. We showed him the pylons, showed him the shadows, showed him the pylons, showed him the shadows. I took the shadow roll off of him in the Meadows his next start, and this was shortly after I'd just come back from wrist surgery. He was extremely grabby, but won the race, and I beat Mark at the wire before I get injured. So anytime I can beat my brother at the wire, it puts a smile on my face. But to see this colt come back and take his first start, lifetime mark 154-4 was impressive. Unfortunately, it was all downhill from him after that. We tried to teach him how to do it right. He's got it now, but how effective is he going to be? That will depend on him. I was happy with some of his last races. We'll see how he comes back when Tim starts him back up. I'll be back in just a minute. I got to do some stuff. I'll come back with Inland Beach. Just a minute.